amendment to Middlesex County Woodlands bylaw 5738 at 2:01 p.m. So looking for a mover. Councillor Richards, seconded by Councillor Mayhew. All in favor? So moved. And this report is a hearing for application for council exemption for clearing woodlands. Peter Jennen being the applicant, 1052 Longwoods Road, part lots 22 and 23, range 1 north, municipality of Southwest Middlesex. This is a staff report from Mark Brown. So whenever you're ready, Mark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors. So yes, as described, this is a woodlands exemption application for just a very small area of woodland along the Creek Ravine to be removed at 1052 Longwoods. The woodlands, you can see that just the two small areas are outlined on the map there currently. The woodlands, I guess, have crept out into the farmland. Surface drainage drops down into a ravine. I think you can probably see from my report photos, and gradually those two little side ravines, if I can describe them as that. The main ravine runs kind of northwest, southeast, and it's a tributary of the Thames River. But those two little peninsulas that jut out have kind of crept out into the main fields, the cultivated fields. So the applicant would like to just square those off and take care of the drainage. That's how he described it to me, and get those squared off and then replant the equivalent area. He's very much a woodlands advocate and loves his woodlands on his property. So he wants to replant those, which is a requirement under the bylaw in any case. So a quick description, quick overview for you. The woodlands on the property extend to about 18.4 hectares on this particular farm. And as you can see, they're actually part of a contiguous woodland in the area which crosses several properties and extends onto the county woodlands of 144 hectares. It's a pretty substantial, nice piece of forest ecosystem that wildlife and trees and birds and everything are enjoying the benefits of at the moment. The proposed clearing is just under a quarter of a hectare, 0.23 of a hectare, or roughly around a half an acre. All the woodlands on the property and the surrounds are classified as significant woodlands, and they are in a natural heritage system as significant woodlands. The species makeup in that Creek Ravine is currently mostly dominated by walnut, pine, white pine, oak, ash. The mature ash have died, but there's lots of regeneration in the understory, maple and hickory. So the proposed clearing would equate to about 1.2% of the woodlands on the property. And as I mentioned before, the owner is more than happy to replant the equivalent area. So if you can scroll to the next photo, Rebecca. You can see the photo on the left is from the 1954 aerial image, taken way back. And you can see really the ravine, the Creek Ravine, is much more distinguishable, and the trees associated with that Creek Ravine are much more sparse, fewer. And if you fast forward to the 2020 aerial image, you can see it's grown in nicely. I think that was probably part of some deliberate planting, certainly with the pine and the walnut over the earlier years. But anyway, it's grown back in really nicely. So it's performing a really good service to the creek and the water quality of the River Thames in terms of filtering any kind of pollutants and stuff. So the riparian forests are very, very valuable to the ecosystem. The potential impacts we view as very, very minimal, really. Taking off those two little nubs, I don't think is going to significantly affect the buffering of the water quality. It's certainly not going to increase the or decrease the interior habitat of the woodlands. So the deer and the wildlife and the birds have still got plenty of woodlands to support their life systems. And we don't see it being an impact on the water quality in the creeks. It's not in a regulated area. The regulated areas are confined to quite a narrow strip along the creek, which I found a little surprising, but anyhow, that's how it is in the mapping system. And of course, the Conservation Authority, the Lower Thames River Conservation Authority, were notified and consulted, and we didn't get any feedback or any comments from them. So that's really, if you want to scroll to the next photos, Rebecca can kind of walk you through those. So we have one set of maps and photos of the external views of the woodlands. Hopefully those are fairly self-explanatory. And the big panorama photo at the bottom covers the area where Peter would like to do the replanting, which is just in behind a sort of an Armco barrier and on the north side of Longwoods Road. It's an open area currently, and we foresee the trees will grow in there nicely. And then the next maps, Rebecca, are, yeah, again, fairly self-explanatory, I think, unless councillors have any questions. So staff's recommendations for this application are that we recommend it be granted, subject to the regular conditions which are laid out in my report, taking a security deposit, and that will be held until the new trees that are planted, if council is happy to grant it, that will be held until they're free to grow. And that's signed off both by a registered professional forester hired by the landowner and myself. We don't return that deposit until we're satisfied. And the owner, of course, would be responsible for complying with any provincial or federal regulations, such as the Migratory Bird Act, you know, not to remove the trees during the nesting season, those kind of things. And that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. I do think we have the applicant joining us now. Is that what I see? Okay.
Yeah, I just got on. Sorry, yeah, I just got on. I was busy out back, but my wife logged me on. But yeah, thank you for hearing this request. And like I said, Mark explained it pretty well. Like I farm actually outside of Thamesville, closer to Dresden. This is a farm that I acquired about 7-8 years ago, and I'm an avid outdoorsman, but I'm also, you know, a farmer, you know, that likes to farm the land. And the reason I did ask for this small clearing is to make the farm more easier to farm with the big equipment. And the one side on the east side is actually, there's a main tile that I want to get better at to be able to service it. There's trees that are hindering that. So there's a multitude of reasons why I'm asking for this request, and I'm more than willing to replace those trees in the two areas that Mark identified that can be replanted to relocate, you know, plant different trees that I'm from the ones that I'm removing. So yeah, so I'm asking if this request can be granted, and that would be greatly appreciated. It would make the farm easier to farm, and it also would make things just all around better.
Okay, thank you. And Council, any questions for either Mr. Brown or Mr. Jenin? I have one question. And that would be for Mr. Brown. When is bat roosting season over? And when does it start?
Bat roosting season, Your Worship? Okay. So it's pretty much coincides with bird nesting season. They, as you know, they hibernate over the winter in big clusters to keep warm and that sort of thing in their roosts. And then obviously they're flying in the spring once there's plenty of insects too, because they have to, I think they eat like 1,500 insects a night or something like that. But yeah, it coincides very much with the bird nesting season. There's a little bit of overlap, but I think a a biologist would, figure out if there are any, major bat roosts in the area to be cleared.
Okay, that's perfect. I just was curious about that because I did see it as one of the 8 conditions that you've listed. So council, any other questions or comments? Now's your chance. If not, then we have a motion in front of us that the application by Peter Jenin, 1052 Longwoods Road in the municipality of Southwest Middlesex for council exemption for clearing woodlands for conversion to agriculture be granted subject to the following 8 conditions. Mover, Councillor Mayhew, seconded by Councillor DeVitt. All in favor? So moved. Thank you. So our public hearing is now over. Now I have to catch up to my pages. And thank you, Mr. Jenin, for attending.
Yeah,
And good luck in the future.
thank you for granting it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so I just found my page, thank goodness. And I just need a motion to rise from the public hearing. And that would be Councillor Richard, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All in favor? Okay, and now moving on to announcements. Oh, 14A, the Warden's Banquet, November 5th, 2022. So that, I think that's on there to remind everybody that you need to get your clothes pressed and your dresses ironed and your faces washed and ready to go for November 5th. And now I'm looking now for a motion to adjourn. Councillor DeVitt, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? So moved.